Mythic Games is at it again. They are asking for more money to deliver the game that you already paid for, and then going back on their promise on the fact that if you already did pay more, you have to pay even more now, even though they said you wouldn't. There is a lot to discuss here, including some of future projections by Mythic Games itself. So we're going to kind of dive deep into this a little bit. And just as a forewarning, this one might be a little frustrating on me. So if you're wanting a really calm and collected take on it, probably not going to happen right now. I'll try and keep everything nice and cool, but we'll see where this leads. There's good news at first, and I'm really happy to at least put something kind of positive in this video, because the rest of it's going to be fairly negative, not just for Mythic Games, but the industry as a whole. But before we get into that negativity, you see, Into the AM is having a clearance sale. They make great shirts just like this. They fit great, they feel great. I wear them all the time, as you see on the channel. There is a 10% off discount code in the description below for your use, and it goes on top of any sales they have. So this clearance, which by the way they have right here, I'm showing it off right now, fantastic, because they're clearing out some of their like summer stuff as well. So even more of the newer designs are also here, up to like 40% off I'm seeing here. So a lot of good sales. I've had this one, 62% off. So there's some great sales here. And again, that's 10% off on top of that you get to save. So definitely some big savings. They also came out with some brand new fall collection stuff. I'll be having some of these to show to you soon. I didn't have them quite yet, but definitely want to let you guys know about the sale, but also the new stuff, because this stuff goes out of stock quick and it can take a while to restock it. This one right here, Vibrant Remembrance, looks great. I also really like this Tranquil Ascent tee. The vintage shirts are always fantastic. Guys, these are really, really great stuff. You can get prepped for some of the cooler weather, stay warm, stay fashionable. And again, it's such a great investment. Unlike what we're about to cover, this is definitely something I would recommend. So feel free to check it out again in the description below. Thank you Into the AM for supporting the channel, and thank you guys for supporting them, and in turn making this channel go as strong as it can, especially when it comes to videos just like this. Okay, with that out of the way, Darkest Dungeon. Okay, so here's the Darkest Dungeon Kickstarter. You've seen it a time or two. As you know, I did back it. I put 150 into it at the time and then went all in the Pledge Manager. It's what I tended to do at the time that Darkest Dungeon was there. I started doing all-ins, and then I did like well, give me the exclusives, and then I'll go all in later. And now I'm a lot more picky, as I think a lot of you are, both because of economical things and just because of things like what Mythic Games has done with their crowdfunding platform. We've all been burned a few times. So what's going on? Well, to catch you guys up, if you haven't seen my previous videos, and I'll just do this real quick, so if you have, it will be real quick. They essentially said, we cannot make the game. This game will not deliver unless you pay us more money. Now, we've already put some of it towards it, but we need your help to pay for some of it. Now, this is a Wave 1 and Wave 2, so they're going to ship the core game, plus like the expansion and stretch goal kind of stuff, right? So like 3 things, and then e-pre-mat stuff. And then the rest, all the big box expansions, the other areas of Darkest Dungeon, Wave 2. That being said, you're going to pay for both waves now. In other words, you pay us all this money right now, and we promise you won't have to pay again. In other words, we're going to take it all in once, and then you won't have to later on. Now, a lot of you guys were smart. A lot of you guys knew, and this was a very big talk, that what they wanted was just a higher influx of money right up front. In other words, they're going to say you're paying for 2 and then put it all towards that. That's what was assumed, which kind of makes sense. Like, why else would you do it otherwise? Now, they claimed, so they only had to ask once, but they were going to have to ask for Wave 2 anyway for anybody that wanted a non-English version, and for anybody who, only did 1 wave shipping. In other words, I want all of it all at once in the second wave. So they were already going to have to ask again. So it was a little fishy that they wanted extra money, but don't worry, that's for Wave 2, but you won't have to pay for it. Because lo and behold, here we are. Update 126, there's a 127, we'll get to that shortly. Wave 2 contribution full details. And the full details were right here. Guess what? This was the initial contribution request. And sure enough, a revised contribution request, because if you paid for Wave 1, you still got to pay for Wave 2. So they were able to reduce it through a few things with like the language packs and stuff like that. But all this, and they were still saying shipping will be added on top and calculated separately for each pledge. So they're like, hey, pay us, but guess what? There's also an unknown amount we're not even going to tell you about for shipping. We're not going to provide a table for it or anything that'll be different for every person. Okay, so that was the idea. So essentially what happens, see, Wave 1 backers, is you still had to pay and you got a discount. So you already paid a certain amount of money. Well, now you have that money reduced from the amount they're asking. You still have to pay more. So of course they broke their promise. They betrayed your trust time and time again, and now what you paid isn't it. And this is kind of the thing where a lot of people were assuming, like, so you just needed money in right now, and now you need more money in now again. Again, more on that later, because there's a hint in the FAQ about some of this as well that has me worried. And suffice it to say, I have a different stance right now than I have in the past. So if you've seen me in the past, I've paid the contributions, I've done all that. We'll get to that. We'll get to that. Okay. So they need a minimum order quantity is what MOQ is. They don't really see that very well on what that is, but that's what they're asking for there. And then they always mention refund requests, but you're not going to get it anytime soon. They are so far behind. They're like years behind. It's not going to happen. Okay. So update 127 is the latest and greatest from October 11th. So just yesterday at time of recording, 2 days ago, by the time you see this, they have reached the minimum order quantity for English only, and that means that it will get printed. So the minimum order quantity for the production of Darkness Dungeon Wave 2 has been reached. This means that Wave 2 of Darkest Dungeon will be produced and shipped to all contributors. Now, this is an issue that I have, because one of the problems with having a minimum order quantity is if you price it just for that, then that's what you're paying for. But the more you make, the cheaper each copy gets. That's how that works. It's orders of scale. You save money by ordering more in bulk, right? That's literally Costco. Costco, the board game, is what this is going on for here. So if 1,000 people pay contribution, it costs X per copy that they're having to pay for, which I'm assuming was the minimum, right? Or whatever it is. I'm going to 2,000, whatever. If it was 5,000 people that paid, you got to remember thousands of people backed this. If 5,000 people paid, well, then the amount that each one needs to pay is actually less. It goes down, it gets cheaper. Now, there are companies that do this. There's a whole other kind of, it's not really crowdfunding, but it kind of is, where instead of stretch goals, what happens is the more people that back, the cheaper the price gets for everybody, because that's literally what happens. So if they priced it for the MOQ and now they're past the MOQ, it's technically making them profit now, because the amount you paid is not equal to the amount that is. Now that gets into a whole nother like silly part there where it's like, okay, where is this money going to? More on that later, because they promise something that I guarantee you won't see until after you have to pay them. So we'll get onto that. I'm going to move on from that. This is ridiculous. Again, these things are more complex than they're making it out to seem. If you've passed the MOQ, then now you should be charging less per person, because the cost per copy becomes less. That's how these economics work. It literally, that's what it is. Okay. Currently, we are 63% of the minimum for the French version, which is very likely to be reached. So they suspect they're going to get it in French and English. The minimum for German is at 23%, so it's not going to get reached. And Spanish at only 18%, definitely not going to get it. So if you ordered it in German and Spanish, not only do they want you to pay for your product, but you will only get it in English. You will not get the game that you paid for. And if you already did the Wave 1 portion of it too, because you're waiting for the translation pack, well, now you're just screwed, because now you got half of it and they still won't deliver what they promised. So yeah, sucks to be you, I guess. I mean, that's rough. So afterwards, they talk about all these updates. And what I highlighted here was that they made a mistake, or they charged too much, or they forgot to do something. And it's this kind of issue that I really, really struggle with Mythic Games. It's what I've struggled with them for their entire being. Since I first got my first game from them, there was issues with this, with translations and goof-ups and mistakes and sloppiness. If you were giving us a timetable to October 31st, which is how long you have to do it here, it's right here. October 31st is how long you have. But then you have all these issues leading up to it where you forgot to say something, or we messed up and you charged too much here or too little here, or you didn't mention this, or you added this and all this stuff. That's eating into that time, giving you even less time to do this. And additionally, it doesn't exactly instill a lot of confidence if you can't even charge people because of your bad business practices to fix them. In other words, if you're messing up on the fix, doesn't exactly boost a lot of confidence that this is going well, or that this company is running efficiently. If you can't even efficiently have an update where you mention everything you want to charge people once you break a promise because you made a mistake the first time too. It's just silly. And their whole idea that, oh, it costs more is BS as well. I'll get to that in the FAQ. So just remind me. But I can break that logic pretty easily. That's just silly. Okay. So they do say here, increase, decrease your pledge. It is possible to increase or decrease your pledge, so that it is possible. There are instructions here. Before you follow these instructions though, wait for the FAQ because it gets a little silly. So we're going to kind of go over that. And additionally, the only time they mention the word apology, and they don't mention sorry at all, is right here. We apologize for the long delay these refunds may take. Which not only is it the only time they apologize for any of this, but it's also hilarious that it's the long delay. The long delay means pretty much never. Seriously, they are still, I think, on last I heard, like July 21st of like last year or something like that. Like they are not making progress. That was one of the big updates they did, and a whole bunch of people asked for it, and they haven't even gone through that. So if you ask for a refund now, just know that 99% chance you are never going to get it. So don't even, I mean, you can bother if you want, but just like submit it and then walk away. And if you, in 5 years you get it, there you go. There's some money for you, but I highly doubt it. But there is some interesting projections and stuff here. So let's go ahead and go to the FAQ here that they link. It's not the FAQ in the Kickstarter. It's the FAQ they link in that update. Okay, so they have some great stuff here. What's in Wave 1, what's in Wave 2. A lot of this is actually fairly helpful for people. I think it's hilarious that even on their own website, they can't hyperlink things. And so they just have an HTTPS URL code here without a actual link to the update, which seems kind of weird. And it's also like weird that, like, as you can see, it acts really weird. Now they're all like, you know, collapsed or whatever. It's a messy page. So I'm going to go ahead and reload so it all auto-expands again, because as far as I know, there's no other real easy way to do that. It's messy. And again, it doesn't bode a lot of confidence when you see websites like made like this. Like it's kind of sketchy, and it gets worse. So we're going to kind of dive into that. But for now, if I don't want to pay the contribution, can I have my pledge refund? They say to expect to wait several months. Now, right now, go ahead and pause the video if you've requested a refund. Let me know when you requested a refund. It doesn't have to be an exact date, just about how long ago and whether or not you've gotten it or not, okay? Because I guarantee you're going to go look at, if you haven't requested and you're thinking about it, look at the comments below. See what other people are going through and just know that that's what you're getting into. None of this BS several months. A lot more than several months wait. I can promise you that. Okay, so with that out of the way, and thank you, by the way, for helping that, because that helps other people who are thinking about asking for a refund know what they're getting into. It's very important that I think you go into this with proper expectations, not the BS fluff that they send to you, okay? All right, so following here, will I be able to use my money from removing an item against the contribution? Possibly. Possibly? Okay, so let me get this straight. Here, which by the way, they don't mention it here, is it possible to decrease your pledge? Yeah, in other words, hey, I've already pledged to get this. You already have my money for this box. And I'm saying, don't even bother making that box. It lowers the amount that you need to make. I'm not going to pay for the, delivery of this anyway. So refund that and then put that towards that, because you already have that money. And you say you don't mix money around or put it all into that, so it should still be there available. And suddenly the answer is possibly. We might just say, okay, we won't make you that, and then also not give you that money back. In other words, what they're saying is we'll make it to where you don't have to pay the $13 you need to pay on that expansion to get it. But we'll keep the $69 or whatever we charge for that box, $100 that you paid for it. They're just going to keep that money ridiculous that you essentially shot it in there, and they won't even apply that towards the contribution. They want to say, hey, that money that you sent, yeah, you know what? Our bad. We're not going to make it, but also we're still going to charge. It makes no sense. That's BS, and it's even possibly either allow that to go towards it, or don't BS people with it when it comes to that. Unless you're trying to say, if you want to pick and choose what contribution you want to pay, what $13 per box you want to pay or whatever, then that's fine. Do that. But don't do this whole, oh, we just won't make that, and also you don't get the money back. That's just silly. And you know people are going to request for it, not read the FAQ, not read that possibly, which, by the way, if they don't say yes, it pretty much means no. It's just like when your parents said possibly. It just means no. Okay. So moving on from that, and I'll show you exactly what I need to pay, by the way, here. Have you used Darkest Dungeon funds for other projects? We will provide details on the expenses related to this project shortly. This shortly, again, it's another BS, just like possibly. Shortly means after if we see it at all. It won't be at the detail level that you guys want it to be. It'll just be like, oh, development costs or whatever and stuff like that. And then also it'll be after they've already asked for your money and the deadline's going. So they shortly means after October 31st at a minimum. I pretty much guarantee it. But even if they do it before or if they do it after, you're not going to get the breakdown you want. Again, these are the same people that can't even figure out what they're selling you to charge you for and have to change it after the fact and put it in an update. Oh, yeah, we forgot that we have to charge you for this and stupid stuff like that. So they're not organized enough to do this. But we've seen this happen before. I've covered in previous news videos that often, even when they do break down costs, they do it in an incorrect way. I read a whole thing from an accountant once that kind of broke down somebody's, breakdown of the costs where they put their salaries in stuff like development and stuff like that and all these other improper things that your accounting should never do, right? So there's all this stuff that will just hide information, conflate, data, stuff like that. All of it's all messed up. So it'll just be spin anyway to try and make them look good. And anybody who knows better will just feel even worse about it. So, honestly, I almost don't want them to do that just because it's a waste of time. It just means I have to make another video calling out how bad it is because I highly doubt it's going to somehow be super organized and detailed when, again, they can't do that. Even when they're after doing it so badly as a business, they still can't charge you the right amount of money. It amazes me how much Mythic Games fails at being a business all the time. Which leads me to this. Mythic Games has no intention of going out of business. I don't know. Okay, so a lot of you guys have mentioned this to me before, right? I know you have, where you feel like this is Mythic Games' new business because they do this to a point where they've been able to essentially keep making money and running a business. In other words, off of profits. Remember, if they have certain expenses, those expenses also include paying employees, even if it's just paying Leo. Okay, so regardless of who works there, they're getting paid, which means that you're paying into that as well. Plus any other expenses they have as a company, right? That includes domain names like this mythicgames.net and stuff like that. So all of this stuff, all of running Mythic Games as a business is still there. It's not just cost. It's not just to make Darkest Dungeon, we have X cost, right? And we're charging X. Because if that's the case, they go out of business because they have other expenses beyond X that they still need to pay for. So if they have no intention of going out of business, and they've been able to do this now for a long time, Mythic Games has been charging this whole extra contribution for a while now, since Wave 1, right? And now they've also done Six Siege, now they're doing this one as well, and they just keep the ball rolling when it comes to what they're charging for. And it looks to me like because they have no other viable way of making money, they have very few stock of anything else. The only thing they were really selling hard was stuff that they already sold IP rights to and had to get rid of their stock, which they kind of mentioned before too. So stuff like Super Fantasy Brawl, right? Another company now owns that. And so they had to kind of sell through their stuff. So they were just kind of doing that. Otherwise, there's no real other way for them to make money. They can't launch another Kickstarter. They have no prospects for retail. There's literally nothing they can do. And so the only way for them to get money as a business and continue to run, which they have no plan on stopping, is to keep asking for contributions and have that fund the running of their company, not just manufacturing the stuff that they already owe. So just know that from that alone, they're already saying, hey, by the way, we're charging more than we necessarily need to do this because otherwise the business just goes out. I mean, that's just how it works. So this is why I say, saying, oh yeah, sure, we'll release all the breakdown of expenses related to this project. This project is a microcosm of Mythic Games as a whole. And if you just leave out everything extra, well, that's where a lot of the problems came from. It wasn't just this project, it was everything else. That, and normally they don't include the Pledge Manager money as well. Often it's just what they make on Kickstarter. And the Pledge Manager money is just somehow omitted. Oh, weird how that works. Okay. So, one thing I want to note also about this, about them going out of business and running this and having contributions pay for this, is actually right up here. So they talk about here how the Wave 2 was initially scheduled for the second quarter of 2024, but has now been brought forward by half a year in order to deliver to all backers as quickly as possible. Now, getting rid of any excuse that they make for it and just leaving it here, they essentially said, hey, we were going to try and make this second quarter of 2024, but we've actually brought it up half a year early. At the same time saying, hey, we couldn't figure out a way to pay money towards this project. And then you see that they just did the Six Siege and had way less of a backing per person than Darkest Dungeon Wave 1, and it makes it seem again like they just need money influxed into their company to keep running, and they're just doing the same thing they did on Kickstarter, but now with contribution, with less oversight, and with more confusing and kind of like non-transparency, is what it seems like to me. Otherwise, spend the next few months trying to figure out how much you can contribute or whether prices go down or anything like that. You set a timetable, let's do the timetable, or hurry up with it and then charge as much as possible and get as much as possible until eventually the ball runs out, until eventually you trip, right? Just run, trip, collapse, game over, race over, do not pass go, do not collect 200, right? It's all these things put together that just make it seem to me like they're just wanting an influx of money and that's what they need. But it amazes me that they have no intention of going out of business, even if they deliver everything. Who's going to back another game by them? How can they continue to run a business with, as far as I can tell, no viable way of ever making money ever again under the name Mythic Games? Why would you continue to run Mythic Games? Why would you? The moment anybody finds out Leo's involved in any other project or any other game thing, that's not going to work out. You would have to leave the industry and start making something else. Maybe they'll make like tampons or something. I don't know. But it's not going to work out with board games. I can tell you that much. There's no way Mythic Games continues as a board game company. Ever. It's just not going to happen. Their only hope is to keep having people give them money through contributions until eventually they can check out. Which leads me to the last thing here on this FAQ, then we'll go to how much I'm paying. To date, we have still delivered all of our games. Now, I'd like to clarify that unless every backer that paid you all that money for the game gets the game, it's not delivered. So Darkest Dungeon, even after this Wave 2, is not considered delivered in my book until people get their game that they paid for, not just a contribution thing. Same with Six Siege. So that number will never go up because there will never get 100% of people to pay this difference. So they will be stuck at those 10 projects and never increase from there. And everything else I will consider as not fully delivered. Failed. But I don't think they're seeing it that way. Okay, so you get an email like this. It's all sketchy. I'm going to blur out my password and stuff like that just because it's whatever. But it's just some, automated thing. But one thing that I find funny is you actually sign into admin.mythicgames.net, which is just funny that you would go to the admin thing. And again, it's these little things like this, like you're signing into the backend of a WordPress website that makes it seem really sketchy. Like I don't necessarily feel comfortable with this company being organized and professional enough to really do this for the whole time and do it well. That's my worry. So you get to this website, it's very, very bare bones, and then you have to solve a CAPTCHA to sign in, which is also kind of confusing. I don't understand the CAPTCHA part at all, except that it was probably defaulted on to that, and then that's it. But I've done plenty of other websites from French companies, so no, it's not a French rule thing or whatever, where I don't need to solve a CAPTCHA upon every single login. That's kind of weird. Either way, I did 2 + 7, so there's that. I'm not going to choose to remember me. I'm actually going to have to put this in each time because that's some weird stuff there. So we're going to log in, and then you get to this dashboard here where it's just some hyperlinks, and it's bare bones here, guys, right? Super duper bare bones. So now I'm signed into admin.mythicgames.net is the URL that I'm signed into. Again, very, very weird. So now I can go to contribution. And sure enough, it says right here, I have a pending payment of $78 for 4 items, right? That's order number 25513. So it has all this stuff here. It has pay, view, and cancel. I don't know what cancel does here. I don't know if I'm not clicking it, but is that like a back button, or is that canceling my pledge, or what? I don't know. I'm not sure what cancel does, but let's go ahead and just go to view. So if I go to view here, I'm not going to scroll down because it has my billing and shipping address. I don't want to bother blurring that out. But as you can see here, it just lists, again, very bare bones, basic table, the different expansions and how much I need to charge for that. Additionally, there's $26 in shipping. It just says via shipping, which is kind of funny there, for a total of $78. So $52 for the expansions plus $26 for shipping for a total of $78 that I would need to pay for this. Now, there's nowhere to pay here. I have to actually go back. So I have to go back to contribution. There's no back button either or anything like that. So I have to go back to contribution, and then I have to click pay, and then it actually allows me to try and start paying here. So again, here you can do credit cards, you can do Affirm installments, Klarna installments, whatever the heck that junk is, PayPal. It's all like on one line. It's kind of like bunched up here. It's kind of odd. Like I feel like there should be a new line here, but Either way, the CSS is a little out on there, and then you can finally pay for order. And this isn't even disabled until I actually start filling stuff out, which is also kind of funny. You would think you would just disable that button until things are actually filled out, so that they don't get some awkward thing like this. But again, bare bones thing. So even the text here, like default. I mean, come on. And now it was centered. Now it's all left align here. It's so weird. And I'm still admin.mythicgames.net. It's just wild. All right, so this is my struggle. I know this was a little bit more heated than normal. I do apologize for that. I feel bad. I've made several videos of this. I've tried to give them the benefit of the doubt. I've tried to help you guys along the way and just get you guys your games, if nothing else. But I'm kind of at the point where I think you guys were at earlier, where I'm just kind of tired of it. Which sucks because I've backed Anasteer. I've backed all these other games that they've done. I late backed Hell. So like they have lots of my money, and that's what sucks. That if I don't pay $78 now, I essentially don't get the hundreds of dollars I paid them for the expansions to begin with, and that really bothers me. It also bothers me that in their latest update, when they talked about all the stuff that they did wrong, they didn't apologize for it. Nor did they apologize for the fact they have to do this to begin with. The only thing they only apologized for once was the delay in refunds, which was already marketing crap anyway, because they're way more behind than a few months. So it's this issue where I feel like they don't properly respect me as somebody who gave them money. When they took their wife out on a date, I helped with that because the money that they had in their pockets was from me paying them for a product that now I don't get. And they can't even bother with an apology for that. So I'm disrespected by this company. I just get marketing crap, kind of half-truths and lots of spin from them, it seems, when it comes to, oh yeah, Charlotte, we'll put, our finances out there. Yeah, okay, sure. Yeah, I'd like to see that done before you don't finalize this. But at the same time, I want my freaking games. It's a fun game, which also sucks. Like, I really like Darkest Dungeon. It's a very fun game. I very much enjoyed it. My son and I played that, I don't even know how many times, like a ton of times. And we just had a blast playing that constantly. It was a great game, good quality. Another problem I have with this, beyond even all this, is just how stupid the whole situation is because they refuse to even look into other solutions. What would be worse? You guys tell me. Not getting your game at all, or getting it but with standees. They'll just said, you know what, never mind about the miniatures. They've never even addressed it. For instance, it could be that, hey, we've already paid for the molds of all of these minis, and we had before we ever asked for something, right? All these molds were made for and paid for, which, by the way, is a very large percentage of the manufacturing cost. So if that was the case, then they can't talk about manufacturing costs nearly as much as they can. But let's say they did. Then address that so that people know, hey, we looked into that option, but it wouldn't actually save us that much because the actual printing of miniatures is pretty cheap. However, even if you have the molds already paid for, yeah, sucks that you wasted that. However, the footprint would be a lot less, right? The boxes could shrink, and the shipping would be less, and the freight would be less. And the manufacturing would still technically be less as well. So, in other words, could you just save on that? Then there's also kind of the BS on how much per item things cost, right? So like, for instance, $13, $13, $13, $13, right? That's, again, not even shipping, okay? I've spoken with other developers. I did just as recently as at Essence Spiel, literally just last week. I was talking to some devs, and they were talking about manufacturing costs. And one of the things they said is that more or less it's still in line with where it was last time I reported on it. Where essentially a big box game costs about $55, $60, let's say. Okay, for like a big box, core game or whatever. Now, there's a lot to order there when it comes to the amount you're ordering because it's a core box, stuff like that, right? So there's some play there. But still, whole thing costs about like $55 to make. So what this is saying is essentially they have no money. None. Zero. from a thing. Remember, this is the reduced price because I paid wave 1 and technically wave 2, right? So this is the reduced cost. In other words, they're saying it's going to cost us more than 52 to do that. Assuming they don't make a profit on it, but like I said, if they don't make a profit on it, they go out of business directly afterwards, and they're planning on not doing that. So they're planning on making a profit to continue running what they're doing, right? To continue to do this. So if it's not the direct cost of the manufacturing, sorry, I've been shouting a lot. What the heck is it? And why was no other options looked at? Maybe you could get rid of the 26-cent shipping if you had tried not doing something super premium. What if you had tried some other thing? So often people get in their heads like, I'm going to mass market make this in China, and that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to make it the most premium thing ever, and that's what I want to do. It's either super high premium or nothing. Why? Get rid of all the UV stuff. Get rid of all the, fancy linen finish junk. Go ahead and, make those standees. And then maybe you could have just made it and sent it instead of doing this whole asking thing. But no, it's got to be the top tier thing. It's got to be the best plastic ever. It's got to be the best minis ever. It's got to do all this stuff. By the way, pay for it. Mythic Games is not good at running a company. They don't run themselves well. Even now, even after the reduction of staff. I mean, their solution was just fire a whole bunch of people, right? So, that's not even really a solution. So again, I'm at this crossroads. What do? Do I pay the $78 or not? Let me know what you think I should do. I haven't decided yet. I really haven't. I'm very conflicted. I want to get the game. We'd enjoy it. We'd very much be happy to have it. But putting another $78 into this company so that it can continue to run inefficiently, it can continue to disrespect its backers, it can continue on that it has for now a long time, and as far as I can tell, they have no plans on stopping, continuing to do this over and over and over again. Again, just like with their Kickstarter thing that failed, until eventually they don't get enough. And once they don't get enough, the company goes under. They're literally on this lifeline where somehow it's mixed between we don't plan on ever going out of business, but also we're just going as long as we possibly can, and then eventually we'll tire out and stop running. And then it collapses. I don't know. All right, yeah, let me know what you think I should do. I'm not sure yet. I'm undecided. I'm a little frustrated. It's very sad to see this happen. And it affects everybody else too. How many times, and in fact, I'm sure some of you even commented now. Go ahead and look in the comments. How many people have said, I will not back another Kickstarter again. I'm out of Kickstarter because of stuff like this. Mythic Games ruined it. If you're a developer of another game on Kickstarter, you're hurt by this. The whole industry is hurt by this. Everybody I just met at Essen Spiel that has a campaign or has run campaigns is affected negatively by this. Mythic Games is making your business worse because it's scaring customers away, and I can't blame them. I really can't. All right, so after this, there will be an awesome news video. I got a lot to cover. There's a lot of really cool stuff by much better companies available, so I'll be sure to share that with you guys, of course. And don't forget Into the AM. They do make a great product. They run a good business, and you will be very satisfied with the product you get for the price you paid for it, too. Again, save 10% with the discount code down in the description below. Guys, thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day. Take care. Bye, guys.